Nigel, hi everybody.
Hi,
Welcome to this month's LinkedIn Living. I'm so excited to be joined today by Nigel Cliff. Wonderful to
thank
have
you for
you
asking me,
with
Julie.
us. Um, so obviously this is a LinkedIn Living that we do, that I run every month, shining a light on the world's leading B2B platform that is social media. God, I can't even speak. I'm that excited that Nigel's here. Um, So we've been talking about Uplift Live. So Nigel and I were at the UK's first LinkedIn conference last month, which was absolutely immense. It was brilliant. And you've probably heard about it. There's a lot of talk about it on, and still a lot of people talking about it on LinkedIn because it was just immense, wasn't it, Nigel? A real buzz about the whole
Absolutely.
event,
Yeah.
which hasn't stopped. So Nigel, I'm really grateful he's here because he was one of the speakers at the event. And Nigel is a LinkedIn trainer and he works with businesses and organizations to make them LinkedIn incredible. So I'm delighted that Nigel's joining us because we're going to be sort of talking through the nuggets that we took from it, I think. And Nigel's presentation was definitely one of the highlights. It was really thought provoking, I thought.
You
It
should.
was a very
Yeah,
thought
more
provoking.
about that. No, no. It was
Um,
all good. I mean, every speaker had something really, really
they
valuable to
did.
offer.
They did.
And Gus, John,
Yes.
and Jeremy did a great job at selecting, people who were going to speak about different things that brought something to the party. So the whole thing was fantastic. Yeah, I loved it.
And that's a really
Still
good
feeling
point.
the high.
Exactly. And it's a really good point because they did get such a group of speakers that all had something different to say. And it just really blew my mind again about how powerful LinkedIn is and that you can use the LinkedIn in so many different ways. Because we had Louise talking about company pages. We obviously had yourself. We had Mark Williams talking about stalking on LinkedIn. We had social selling. So we had and Tina, of course, talking about recruitment and job seekers and things like that. So we had a really broad range of subjects. So there was something for everyone. So the good news, everybody, if you get a taste of what we talk about today, the good news is an Uplift Live next year. So make sure you keep an eye out for information on that. So if anybody's got any questions, please do pop them in the comments box because Nigel and I can get to them either during this session or afterwards. So that would be great. So I think if we just look at what, because there were so many subjects that we could talk about, I think one of the things, there were two kind of key things that I took overriding from the whole event. And one of them was the fact it's how important it is to be targeted on LinkedIn. You mentioned it in your presentation. Mark talked about it and Richard talked about it as well, about, focusing on being much more narrow and focused on who you want to get in front of. And the other thing was engaging on LinkedIn, just how important that is, and also the importance of who you engage with, not just engaging for the sake of it, which I thought was interesting. And I can't remember who said now, but somebody said that you need to be engaging 10 times for every once that you post. So I love engaging, folks.
Yeah, I think I post so little. Relatively, my engagement is massive. I mean, it would be 100 to 1 for me. I engage with so many more people on so many more pieces of content than I ever post about from my own profile. Yeah, for me, I think the secret sauce is engagement. It's building relationships in your community with the right tribe, with the right audience for your future opportunities in mind. So it's commenting, yes, to be sort of in a community, but also commenting with value that supports what it is you're trying to do in the first place.
Yes.
So there's no point in being in places which are unrelated to your dreams and your own personal goals. But it's a mix of everything, isn't it? It's a fine balance between having a total focus on being totally corporate and business minded, but at the same time trying to have some personality and building relationships with the community. Every one of us is going to find a different way to do that.
100%, exactly. And I think Richard said that when you're engaging, it should be at least 12 words. And as you say, it's about adding value. So, and I think because, there was all these pods, and I don't know if pods still go on, where people pay and they all have to interact on everybody's content and they put like great job or well done. And that just adds no value. It's about having your expertise, isn't it?
Yeah.
On those engaging comments.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think anything shorter than whether it's exactly 12 or 10 doesn't matter what the actual number is. If it amounts to 4 or 5 words, even, you're not adding real value to a conversation. So yes, you might like the post, you might think it's great, but reiterate which part of the post or the message resonated with you and why. It takes 30 seconds to answer, but the value you get from that. And the value that the person who contributed the original post gets from that is so much greater. I'd rather do fewer thought through comments, even though I do a great number of them, than just go amazing, well done, fantastic. What's that worth? Nothing.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think I said this, I mentioned this to you, and I think you get the same, is that whenever I say that I do LinkedIn, people response to me is usually, oh, I need to be posting more. And in my head, I'm going, well, maybe you don't, because I am like you. I'm rubbish at posting. I'll put my hand up there. I'm really bad at posting content on LinkedIn. I'll have to go, what am I posting today or this week or something? So, but it doesn't mean that we're any less visible, actually, does it, Nigel? Because we are spending most of our time engaging.
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually find trouble in posting, in the sense that I have loads of ideas, but what I prefer to do is make people think. So I will typically do a post a week. That's not very many for you're a LinkedIn trainer. You post once a week. Shouldn't you be doing this 3 times a day, Nigel, or even once a day? Well, I'm not criticizing anybody who takes that line of approach, but to be honest, I'm busy. I can't. If I create, I mean, it's not just about the writing of the post, Judy. That may take me 10 minutes to half an hour. It depends on the nature of the post. But if I've done something thought-provoking and successful, i.e., it gets comments and engagement, it takes me significantly longer to keep on that feed, commenting back, being kind in the conversation, remaining, thanking people for the comments, adding perspective to their comments back. That takes me forever. If I do a post in a morning, that hits the mark somewhere, I'm on and off LinkedIn all day, just following and tracking the responses to that. Now, the secret then is not on the post, it's in the engagement that comes off the back of that. It's in the comments, it's in the DMs that occur. Thanks ever so much for commenting on my post. I really value that. I really love that point you made about X, and thank you for adding that to the conversation. Listen, it looks like me and you have got some overlapping interests. Do you fancy dropping on a Zoom call for a chat sometime over a coffee? That's where the real business is done, Judy. It's not gathering numbers. So, to boast 5 million impressions per annum or 20 million impressions on my posts, it is not something that's ever going to drive me business. What drives business is relationships. That's what it's all about. And being present and being authentic, being valuable, being knowledgeable, being expert in your field, demonstrating that to your audience, and the rest will look after itself, in my mind. There are many ways to cut and dice LinkedIn. I'm just telling you my way. But having done this for 12 years now, full time, it works. So so I want to spread that love. Listen, it's not about I can get you 10,000 new clients in next. Have you got 60 leads a week coming into your inbox? What a load of tosh. Does anybody believe that anymore? But people want get rich quick answers.
Yes, they do.
I don't want some people. £500 a month will buy you somebody to look after your account, promise you the earth, and after 6 months you're going to go, but nothing's really happened. Oh, you need to give it a bit longer, this, and you give it 12 months, and now you spent $6,000 or whatever it is, or turn that to dollars, do what you like, and you'll end up disappointed, and you'll have wasted 12 months of your life on the back of it. Why not start building relationships one step at a time, building trust 1% at a time? That will get to where you're going. And the next question is, are you building those relationships with the right targets? Because if you're not, you're also wasting your time. Sorry,
I know. No, but that was fantastic, Nigel, because there's just a question from Louise that I'm just going to pop in here. But I think that's exactly the thing, isn't it? That it's, let go of chasing impressions, chasing not so much reactions, but chasing profile views and actually focus. Let me just pop this question in from Louise, because she's asked, what do you think of commenting on other comments in somebody else's post? And I think that's you know, so you're commenting on the original author and then you comment on other people's. And I'd say if it's relevant,
completely valuable.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I was in a post that was originated this morning, and I think I made a comment, and then somebody commented in my comment, and you know, the stream of comments under my comment has gone to like 10 long. So if I'm looking at a post and I see lots of comments, I'm in there. I want to see what the interest is. So that's fantastic. Yeah, comments is great. The only thing is, of course, they get they're not expanded, are they, in the first view? So sometimes your comment could be lost, and if it's a particularly valuable one, here's a powerful tip: why not create a new comment in the stream as opposed to commenting in a comment, because where it might get lost. So you just reference the person. Hey, Judy, in answer to the question you raised below, so that you're referencing the conversation that's happening. Let me just add this to the conversation. So that's a clever little tip to kind of bring it back to first level tier comments, as opposed to being lost in a tiered comment thread, which might get lost if it's hidden. So that's just a little tip, Louise, that you might want to explore sometime. And I sometimes use that tip, not always, but sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. It's where it's relevant, isn't it? And I love that, because you're so right. It just gives that more visibility, doesn't it? Because they can get lost. But I think it was Richard who said in his presentation, actually, though, if you are posting your own content, the holy grail is to get people having those conversations underneath your post. So it's not you conversing, but it's other people who are suddenly going off and having all sorts of conversations.
Yeah, and you know why? It's quite simple. If LinkedIn algorithms sense that a piece of content has got value by people commenting, guess what? It gets shared to a wider audience. It's not rocket science, guys. Okay. Yeah. If there's no conversation happening inside a post, it's like a little seed. So we plant a seed in the morning on a post, and you know, we put a little bit of water on it, and it, is it going to grow? Is it going to grow? Well, if nobody interacts with it, it's dead. Right? If it starts interaction, you know, it gets a little bit more water and the seed starts to spout, and then you know, a few more people comment and interact with it, it grows another little leaf, and before you know it, this leaf will grow into something beautiful. But if it hasn't got engagement, which, think of it as like, you know, watering a seed, it's down, it's dead. Which is why the life of a post is relatively limited, you know, depending on how good it is, to something that if it's got no interest at all, it's probably gone, done and dead inside 24 hours. If it's got life, if it's got interest, it'll last a couple of days, 3 days if you're lucky. You know, but after that, it probably you know, peters out to a very low level of engagement over time. So you have this moment in time, which is why it's important to engage quickly when you post it, when other people are kind enough to comment. You've got to be there in the moment, which is why I'm not altogether a favor of scheduling content, because you're unlikely to be there when the content's going out to be interacting with it. You kind of forget about it. So, you know, so I like to be in the moment. I like to know, right, I've got a morning. If I post this today, I've got some time. I built some time into my day. I'm not training somewhere, and I'm not traveling somewhere. Then I can be there to respond. There is no point in posting and not being there to respond.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen that, and I've seen that with and I say this to people who think that actually what they need is a big network. Because I've seen people with big networks who post, and you see that they're not there. They're just, like you say, they're using a third-party tool or something. And I'm like, well, what's the point? It's pointless, absolutely pointless. I just want to say you've got in a lot of love for your shirt, by the way, Nigel. So, Nonna's great shirt.
Judy, you feel very honoured. This is only the second time this shirt has been worn, so I thought I'd bring it to the party today. So thank you, guys.
Yeah, and Steve says the same as well. So I think we would just alluded to it, but I want to just bring it back to actually the subject of focus and being targeted on LinkedIn, because it's not a mass market platform at all. It's not a case of throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, which is what happens when we get all the automation and everybody, as you say, promising us 600 leads a month that we certainly don't need, do we? And stuff. And I think you talked about it, Mark talked about it, Richard talked about it, and this was a real kind of like, if I can really chunk up as to what I've took as my big takeaway, is like, don't be more targeted, be more focused on who your hot prospects are.
Yeah. Do you know, the question I asked of the audience was this. Imagine your best client in your business now, the B2B environment we'll talk about here. How many of those do you need in the next 12 months to make your business successful? So if you're in a sales role, how many new clients do you need? You know, what you can add your own metrics to this. And the answer came back from the audience. I didn't rehearse this. I just asked off the audience, and somebody shouted 1, somebody shouted 12, somebody shouted 6, somebody shouted 3. Nobody shouted 100. The figures were typically in single figures, and I worked up the module to say, if you all, and let's use the figure of 10 because the maths works. If you only need 10 clients in the next 12 months to make yourself successful, and let's say you convert on half of the quotes or the proposals you're going to be in, then you need 20 hot prospects. 20 hot prospects, multiply that by 3, you've got 60. 3 years. If I do business with those 60 clients in the next 3 years, job done. Am I right? Yeah, I am. You know, this is not 60. This is 60 hot prospects of the right sort that are going to be a game changer for your business. And even if your multiples are a little bit larger, they're never in the hundreds. They're never, well, they might be in the early hundreds, but they're not in thousands and tens of thousands. You know, and so for me, it's about engagement as a strategy with the right prospects of the right type in the right place that are going to make a difference to your life. And you know, instead of chasing impressions, you know, chasing ever increasing reach, you know, as a measure of some success on LinkedIn, let's get real. Actually, what we want here is to win business through LinkedIn. How are we going to do that? And my whole, you know, effort was an idea was a principle of, look, let's throw some of that out, that, you know, viral. Ooh, I don't care about going viral. I'm not going to be on Get Me Out of a Celebrity anytime soon, you know, unless they ask. No, I'm joking. But you know what I mean? It's not going to be a game changer in my life. You know, winning business on a one-to-one basis, you know, having nurtured those opportunities is going to be the game changer, and the rest will work itself out. So yeah, I'll come off my soapbox again.
And you know, and I think, I think people need reminding about it, and I think it's a really good point because, you know, for me myself, I don't need a lot of clients, like you say. I just need the right clients and whatever the number of clients is. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? That's where you've got to focus and forget about, you know, worrying about profile views, because you quite rightly say, you know, profile views have gone down, impressions are going down, you know, there's so much more noise on LinkedIn, the spam and everything else, and the automation, you know. And I remember after they introduced creator mode, LinkedIn went all weird, and I could literally see my profile views just dropping while I was on LinkedIn. You know, they dropped like 50. I mean, it's stupid. I mean, how can that happen? You know, it's like, so they obviously were recalibrating, and I got a bit like, oh my God, what's happening? And then you have to let that go because it's not important. That, as you say, just somebody looking at profile or responding or the impression is going to make any difference to my business. So, you know, it's not. This is where we've got to disengage from LinkedIn being social media, I think.
Yes, yeah, I actually had a conversation with somebody yesterday suggesting that LinkedIn wasn't actually social media.
I say that. I say don't look at LinkedIn as a social media platform.
It's not Pinterest. It's not, you know,
what's them other ones?
TikTok, Facebook. It's not Instagram. It's a different environment. You know, we might do social selling on LinkedIn, but I don't bracket it in the same category as other social media platforms anymore. And I think that's, you know, people perhaps need to grasp that actually, and this is why, you know, people who don't get LinkedIn and understand the value of personal brand misassociate it with social media. And it's not about social media. It's about your personal brand, your authenticity, your presence in a professional environment that you're protecting and looking after and nurturing for the future. And you know, and so many people don't get it. It's where people come to look at you first. So you know, if you haven't got a profile that you are proud of, you're letting yourself down, you're letting your mum down, you're letting you, you know. I was on a call yesterday, you know, with people around the world in a large company, and you know, I'd said to them, I'm a Yorkshire guy, I say it pretty honestly. I said, look, you're letting yourselves down, guys, because when people are looking at you for the first time who you don't know, that, you know, for whatever reason they visited your profile. There's many reasons that will have happened. But if they're not impressed by what they see, they've come in the front door and they've left out the back door, and you didn't even know they'd looked. Your opportunity's left. So why would you do that? Why would you not think of your profile as somewhere that, you know, is representing your personal brand online digitally? Because do you know what? That is the first place people are going to go. And, you know, the rest won't happen if you haven't at least optimized that as part of, you know, strategy on a LinkedIn understanding. So, yeah, anyway, again.
I love that, Nigel, because that's just, I bang on about profiles, and I know it's not the most sexiest part of LinkedIn at all, and which we're going to get onto in a little bit. But, you know, it is so important just to have that right. Because what impression are you making? Because I liken LinkedIn to being a networking group. So your profile is you going into a room. It's also a website, gets you found on Google. So, you know, why would you not maximize it and stuff like that? Yeah, but exactly. I think if we think about, you know, so we stop worrying about all the metrics that don't count, that are just there to stroke our egos and not do any other benefit than that. How then do we use LinkedIn as a tool to help us get in front of people? How do we be focused? You know, we know that, let's go with, we need 10. Did we say 10? I think we said 10. 10 hot prospects.
Yeah.
And we know engaging is key for that.
Okay. Do you want me to do shall I whip into some Boolean search stuff?
Yes, because I think this is what blew a lot of people away. Your presentation, I think, blew a lot of people away, because one of the questions I get asked, and you will get asked for sure, is should you pay for LinkedIn? And there is an issue, isn't there, with doing a commercial search limit will stop. LinkedIn will stop you looking at profiles, but actually, we can use a better way of doing it, which is what you talked about, isn't it?
Shall I try and do a quick demo?
That'd be great.
Yeah, let's.
You might need your pen and paper for this, everybody.
Let me see if I can share my screen successfully. So, are you seeing, Judy?
I'll add it to the stage.
Are you seeing your profile?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Brilliant. Okay. I thought about, you know, I've got to start off with Judy, haven't I? Okay. Forget Judy for a minute, folks. Well, let me show you. You know, say I was looking for people in digital marketing. This is the classic search, isn't it? And I could click on digital marketing and click enter. And I've got a list of people that pop up. I'm sure we're all familiar with this view. I would typically go to people here, even though it displays people, to get some idea of there are 12 million people resulting back on digital marketing on LinkedIn. Oh, great. You know, I've got
not focused at all.
Yeah. So, and I can start, you know, using some functions in here to minimize that via location. I could even look at things via, you know, connections. You know, how my connections are in digital marketing. I'll just do a first and second results. This is the standard form. 191,000. That hasn't got me very far. You know, how do I narrow this down? Now, the filters, I'm on a premium account, so filters can help me a little, but frankly, they fall down very quickly because I can't filter very precisely for the kind of things I need to know. So let's ditch that. What I want to do is I want to go into Google and show you something similar, or I think a much more refined way to search. And it starts off, if you're not familiar with it, with this prefix site : linkedin.com/in. You'll know, if you're familiar with LinkedIn and the format, you'll know that people are denoted under the /in identity. All profiles will have .com/in at something. So we know that we're looking for people when we add in. If we don't have /in, we just find content. And here's digital marketing. Now, you know, 23 million results here. Oh, hecky. Yeah, that's a Yorkshire expression, by the way. You know, all these people, I've no idea, where do I start with 23 million results? But it gets better than that. Adding to this search string, and this is a really quick demo, look, I can't do it all justice in the few minutes we've got, but if you begin to add the Boolean search operators and or not, we can add, well, perhaps I'm looking for people in search engine optimization or search engine marketing, and a more precise result begins to appear. But it gets better than that. I can extend this forever. Now look at this one. I'll just hold on this one. So here I'm using a filter here that's searching for people in digital marketing who have got some knowledge of search engine optimization or search engine marketing, and who are using the words lead generation, because I'm interested in perhaps people finding leads and generating business, who are perhaps expert in the worlds of content marketing, and who are also talking, and this operator is quite interesting, near/3 is allowing me to search for people who've got the word strategy and social selling in the proximity of three words between each other in this added string. And here, look at this, it brings up people now who've got these search terms in their profiles. Look how brilliant this is. So I'm narrowing this down so much to something of value that I can never do on LinkedIn. Now, if I click on here, you might find, depending on your browser, on your activity, on X-ray search limitations on Google and LinkedIn, watch what happens when I click this. If I open that link in a new tab, right-click open, I get a bad request. Oh, I can't actually go and see this person. So sometimes you might experience that happening to you.
Oh,
but
right, okay.
We're going and finding this person for real. Okay, so if I just do a search for Andy Buckley now on LinkedIn, and I'm looking down this list. Oh, that's the guy, because it mentioned things inside here. If I got Andy Buckley, it mentioned Findell. Do you see that? It called him performance lead. So if I go back to Andy's post, I look at this. Digital performance lead. I found the guy. Okay, right. This is the guy I've found who talks about all these things in his profile somewhere. And this is why we need to optimize our profile with the keywords and expressions that people are interested in, because they're going to help us get found by the algorithms. They're going to put our content in front of the right people. Isn't this a better? You can search and swap out any amount of keywords and phrases yourself for your own industry, whether you're in education, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in biochemistry, whether you're in pharmaceutical. I don't care. The same principle applies. And now we're finding the relevant people. So why would I not want to reach out? I notice there's a second degree connection. Why would I not be wanting to connect to Andy, who clearly has got every interest that I'm interested in too, and offer me connection? And by the way, I just wouldn't hit connect and run. I'd absolutely personalize a message. I'd probably look at his content to see what he's posting about. I'd probably mention something in a recent post. Hey, Andy, I loved your post recently about Brighton SEO. I've often thought about visiting there. It seems like it should be a decision on my agenda for next year. Thanks for sharing that. I'd love to be a connection. That's human. That's real. And that turns it into connection request, which he's likely to accept because I've personalized it. And all the rest happens from there. So that's a flipping quick.
It is. But I think one thing, I think you had about 1,000 in that final one. But I think the key is it's about this is draw it back to focus. What we're saying is think about your best clients, who do you want to work with, etc. And then you do that research to go find them. And now using the Google search, using Boolean on a Google search, you can then save that, bookmark that search, can't you, to your browser, so that you can go back and you can go in, right, I've got 1,000 people, too many. Maybe you bring it down to a local area or something. But, you can start going in and being much more targeted and hone in. And that also overcomes, doesn't it, the problem with the commercial search limit. I know people still now have a problem with, and I don't understand why, well, I kind of understand why LinkedIn has done it, but the personalized messages if you don't pay for LinkedIn. Because I'm a big advocate, if you don't need to pay for LinkedIn, don't.
Yeah, it's very simple, Julie. The more limits they put on your operational use, the more people are going to have to pay. So they're trading off, user experience for the potential for more people to contribute to the pot. As Kevin Turner said,
we are the product.
He said, you've got to think this through from LinkedIn's point of view, guys. There's no point in moaning about things, as I sometimes do. It's about maximizing what you can, and always bearing in mind that there's got to be an earn out for LinkedIn as a result of the privilege of giving you this platform. So it stands to reason if you get it for free, you might have a limited experience, but that's the decision we each have to make, isn't it?
It is. So I think if we were to summarize what we've talked about, because I'm just conscious that we're coming up to the half hour or to the hour even, what do you think the top 2 or 3 or 1 things that people should be doing now to maximize their LinkedIn?
I think Okay, it would be to think of the journey on LinkedIn about building trust in your personal brand to get into the right conversations. Now, that cannot be done with audiences of 1 million. Well, sometimes it can if you're a public, persona. For little old people like you and me, it's about choosing a much more targeted audience and developing more meaningful relationships with people that build trust over time, so that at some point in time, when they want what you've got, then they might come looking for you, and your door is open and ready for that opportunity.
Absolutely.
So for me, that's it.
I totally love that, because you're building that trust in those relationships for when they're ready to buy, and when they're ready to buy, you're there, top of the list, and they come and go, need to do some work. Wonderful. There were a couple of questions that we've not got back to, but we will come to those afterwards and answer those in the comments box. But Nigel, that's been amazing. Thank you so much. I love that. You're such a joy to listen to, and you're so generous with all your advice. Thank you so much. I'm sure there's always more we can talk about. So fantastic. Thank you so much indeed. And if anybody has any questions for Nigel and myself, please just pop them in the comment box or get in touch with Nigel. We'll pop his, well, you should be able to find him on LinkedIn. He's very easy to find. So thank you very much again, everyone. And thank you, Nigel.
Thank you for inviting me.